If you've ever tried to, make a splash online, especially somewhere like Etsy, you know the feeling. We hear it all the time from listeners, right? Things like, it's near impossible to get noticed on Etsy, the market's just super flooded. Or, this one's tough. I had 20 listings, spent 2 whole weeks on them, 3 months later, 2 views. And then there's the really disheartening one. Been doing print on demand for over 2 years, got 500 designs, barely make any money. It's rough out there. But, okay, what if I told you about something completely different? A fascinating counter story. We're looking at a brand new test store, just print on demand products, where designs are printed after someone orders. It got its first sale within a day. One day, just this past week. About $200 in sales, profit margin, somewhere between 25 and 40%. And this is key. Brand new store. No social media push, no store reviews yet, no custom work. It's just working passively on autopilot. That's such a stark contrast, isn't it? It really makes you wonder, why did the store work so quickly when others struggle for years? It's an interesting question, right?
It absolutely is. And that's really what we're digging into in this deep dive. We're going to unpack 7 specific things that, well, seem to have made a pretty big difference for that test store's quick success. And these aren't just, random tips. They're insights into how these online platforms genuinely work. And maybe more importantly, how you can leverage that understanding.
Okay, let's jump in. Let's unpack this deep dive and see what surprising facts, what practical strategies we can pull out to help you navigate these crowded online spaces. So the big question first, visibility. We hear it constantly. How do I get people to actually view my items on Etsy? They just get lost in the sea of products.
Yeah, it's a very common, very real frustration. Totally get it. To really understand how to get seen, you need to know about Etsy's 2 main ways of bringing people to your products. Traffic sources, basically. First, there's direct search. That's simple enough. Someone types in blue dog sweater or whatever. But the second source, and you could argue it's actually more important, is the recommended items. Think about YouTube, right? Most people don't search for every single video. They open the homepage, see what YouTube suggests, and click. Etsy works kind of like that too. It proactively suggests products based on what it knows about the user. And here's the really interesting part about how Etsy's algorithm uses this. When you upload a new product, Etsy gives it what they call test impressions. It shows your new listing to a small, targeted group of people, maybe on their homepage or in category pages. Now, if your product gets clicks from that small test group, Etsy sees that as a good sign. So it shows it to more people. It creates this kind of domino effect. More impressions, hopefully more clicks, and then, eventually, sales. It's actually Etsy's way of giving all stores, even brand new ones without any history, a fair shot. They want you to succeed because then they make money.
Okay, that makes sense. A little window of opportunity from Etsy. But surely there's some luck involved there in that initial test. I mean, if Etsy shows my really cool dog t-shirt to someone who only ever buys, I don't know, cat mugs, I'm not getting that click, no matter how good the design is.
You're absolutely right. There is an element of chance there. You can't control who sees it first. But, and this is crucial, you can massively improve your odds. How? By giving Etsy as much precise information as possible about your product. Really spell it out for the algorithm. That means being super descriptive. Your title, your description, your tags, fill them out completely. But also, all those product attributes, fill those out too, every single one. So if your item fits squarely in the, say, hippie niche, or it's clearly for dog lovers, tell Etsy that. Because then Etsy can use that data to show it to someone who has a history of looking at or buying similar stuff. You're basically helping the algorithm connect the dots, giving it the exact data it needs.
Got it. So feeding the algorithm detailed, accurate info isn't just like a nice to have. It's fundamental, key to getting seen by the right people. Okay, that focus on feeding the algorithm, that makes sense. But it feels a bit counterintuitive when you hear about people just adding hundreds and hundreds of items, You mentioned that viewer earlier, 2 years, 500 designs, no real traction. We often get told, just throw enough spaghetti at the wall. Something will stick. Is that bad advice then?
It's not entirely wrong, but it misses the most important part. The core insight is this. If you have great designs, that equals great traffic. Simple as that. Think about those initial test impressions on the homepage again. The potential customer at that point. They can't see your store reviews. They don't know your sales history. The only thing they see is your product picture, your main image. So those crucial first clicks, they are purely based on how appealing that design looks, period. And here's where it goes a bit deeper. It's not just about that first click. A really high quality, genuinely clickable design tends to get more consistent clicks and, importantly, turns into sales more often. This signals to Etsy, hey, people actually like this thing. It builds let's call it algorithmic trust. It basically tells Etsy, this store gets it, and that can actually help the visibility of your other products too, not just the one winner. It's about building a good reputation with the algorithm itself. So yeah, prioritizing designs that people will actually click on, making sure they're high quality, that is way more important than just hitting some arbitrary high number of listings.
Ah, okay. That's a really big distinction. It's not just product by product, it's the overall quality perception feeding back to the algorithm about your whole store, which leads right into the next big question, right? Okay, fine. We're not just churning out stuff. Quality matters most, but how am I supposed to know if my design is good or bad? Art is subjective.
It absolutely is subjective. And that's exactly why this next strategy is so, well, practical. Use yourself as the first filter. As the yardstick, pick a niche, a topic where you yourself are actually a customer. So for example, if you genuinely love dogs, you buy dog-themed stuff all the time. Great, designed for that niche. Or maybe you're really into hiking and camping. You buy that kind of gear or apparel. Focus there. Because then when you're designing something, you can ask yourself a really honest, important question. Ask yourself, okay, if I saw this design pop up, recommended to me on Etsy, would I click on it? Would I want to see more? If I saw this design on a t-shirt while browsing, would I actually click to open it up? If your honest answer is yes, absolutely, then okay, upload it. But if the answer is meh, probably not, or just no, then don't waste your time. Just move on to the next idea. It makes the quality check much less abstract and much more about genuine appeal.
Right, using yourself as that first test market. That makes a ton of sense for weeding out the meh ideas. But what about finding the really good ideas, the ones that really stand out? I'm guessing that's where this next strategy fits in. Not just avoiding bad designs, but actively looking for gaps.
Precisely. So alongside using yourself as a yardstick, another really effective way to land on a great design is to look for niches or even sub-niches that don't have many good options already. Let me give you a concrete example. This is actually on Redbubble, another platform, but the principle is identical. There was a seller who found success pretty quickly. We looked into their store, and most of their sales were coming from just a couple of designs. One of them, it was a photo of a rocky beach, and people were buying it mostly as a bath mat.
A rocky beach bath mat. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, we did a quick search for other bath mats with beach photos, and a very clear pattern jumped out immediately. Almost everyone else had uploaded photos of, the standard cliche white sandy beaches, tropical paradise stuff. Hardly anyone had uploaded photos of rocky beaches. Now, okay, probably most people, maybe 90%, prefer the white sandy beach vibe, but there's still that 10%, maybe smaller, who actually prefer rocky coastlines. They find them beautiful or dramatic. And for those specific customers, since there were basically no other decent options, any good photo of a rocky beach suddenly looked like an amazing find. It filled a gap. A small gap maybe, but one with very little competition. It was about serving that specific overlooked taste.
Wow, that's a fantastic example. So find an underserved niche or even a sub-niche, even if it seems small. Less competition can mean a much bigger opportunity for you to shine. Okay, let's talk money. The bottom line, this comes up all the time too. How am I supposed to actually make any profit on Etsy after I pay for the product, pay Etsy's fees? And the immediate temptation often is just to undercut everyone, be the cheapest.
That temptation is strong. It's definitely real. But this is where understanding a bit of psychology helps. Specifically, something called price anchoring. See, pricing is surprisingly subjective. If you ask 10 people what a t-shirt should cost, you'll probably get 10 different answers. Because, honestly, nobody really knows its inherent value. So what do? We look around, we see what other similar things cost, and we kind of anchor our expectation based on that. And interestingly, most people tend to gravitate toward the middle price point. Not the cheapest, not the most expensive. There's a classic study, maybe you've heard of it, involving beer prices. It illustrates this perfectly. Phase 1, a restaurant offered 2 beers. A premium one for $2.50 and a cheaper one for $1.80. Guess what? 80% of people chose the $2.50 premium beer.
Okay, interesting. They went for the slightly pricier one.
Exactly. Then phase 2. They kept the $2.50 premium and the $1.80 standard, but added a third super cheap option at $1.60. Now what happened? 80% of people chose the $1.80. The middle one. And then phase 3. They took away the super cheap $1.60 beer and instead added a super premium beer at $3.40. So now the options were $3 for 40 cents super premium, $2.50 standard, and $1.80 cheap. And guess what? 80% of people now chose the $2.50 beer. Again, the one in the middle.
That's fascinating. So people avoid the extremes.
Generally, yes. You probably do it yourself without thinking. When you're browsing for something, say headphones, you might skip the absolute cheapest pair thinking, they'll probably break in a wink. But you also might look at the super high-end $500 pair and think, do I really need that? Unless you're like a professional sound engineer. So you naturally look at the ones in the middle. They feel like the safest, best value option. What this all means is that trying to win by having the absolute lowest price, it doesn't just kill your profit margin. It can actually hurt your sales. People can be skeptical of the rock bottom price, maybe thinking it's low quality, and they often don't want to feel ripped off by the highest price either, so they drift towards that comfortable, reasonable middle ground.
That's powerful stuff. So for your pricing strategy, don't race to the bottom. Think strategically. Position your products in that mid-tier range. That's where most buyers are comfortable, and you protect your profit.
Okay, so we've got clicks, we've got pricing, but ultimately, Etsy wants sales, right? Conversions. Getting an actual sale sends that really strong signal back to Etsy. Hey, people don't just like looking at this, they buy it.
Yeah.
Which, like those dominoes you mentioned, leads to more impressions, more sales. The cycle continues. But for a brand new store, again, how do you encourage those first crucial sales when you have 0 reviews, no social proof yet?
Exactly. That's the big hurdle for new stores. No established trust. So you need to do everything you can to make it easier for someone to decide to buy right then and there. Increase that conversion rate. And one really effective way to do that, include lifestyle photos. Photos where your product isn't just on a plain white background, but is actually being used by a real person. Someone wearing the t-shirt, someone drinking from the mug, the bath mat, actually in a bathroom setting.
Context, seeing it in use.
Precisely. Studies have shown this again and again. When consumers can see a product being used by a real person, it makes it much easier for them to visualize themselves using it. It bridges that gap between seeing an item online and imagining it in their own life. And that makes them far more likely to actually click Buy Now. And look, if you're thinking, great, but I can't afford a professional photo shoot with models, there are tools. There's one called Playseat, for example. They have free accounts, paid accounts too. You basically just upload your design file, choose a scenario, model wearing a shirt, someone holding a phone case, whatever, and boom, it digitally places your design onto the product in that lifestyle photo. Looks pretty realistic too.
Oh, that's super helpful. A practical way to get those lifestyle shots. So bottom line for your store, help buyers see themselves with the product. Use those lifestyle mock-ups. It can make a real difference in turning browsers into buyers, especially early on.
Okay, let's circle back for a second to that idea we touched on earlier, luck. You said there's definitely some luck involved, right? Especially with Etsy's initial test impressions. You can't control who sees your brand new listing first. Sometimes you just get unlucky. Etsy shows it to the wrong person. It doesn't get clicked. And those crucial first impressions just fizzle out.
Yeah.
So what do you do then? Just throw in the towel on that design or even the whole store.
And because of that element of chance, that initial luck factor, this last point is maybe the most critical one, persistence. You absolutely have to be persistent. Remember that anecdote you shared? The person who listed just 20 items got discouraged by low views after a few months and just stopped. Well, that test store we've been talking about, the one that's doing pretty well now, its very first sale didn't happen until the 25th item was listed, item number 25. 25?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So if they'd stopped at 20.
Exactly. They would have missed out entirely. Persistence really, really pays off here. Why? Because every single new product you add, every new listing, is another roll of the dice, another chance to win the Etsy lottery, so to speak, another chance for the algorithm to happen to show that product to the right customer at the right time. And once you get that first success, that click that leads to a purchase, it's incredibly valuable because it gives the algorithm concrete data. This kind of person buys this kind of thing from this store. That data helps Etsy get smarter about showing your other products to the right people too. That one initial winning product, fueled by persistence, can actually help lift the performance of your entire store. It could be the spark that scales the whole thing into a passive income source. But that potential only gets unlocked if you keep going. You have to give the algorithm enough chances, enough data points to learn and find your audience.
That really puts it in perspective. So for those of you listening who feel stuck, maybe you've listed 10, 20, even 50 items and aren't seeing results yet. This is a critical takeaway. Don't give up too soon. Keep refining your approach based on these strategies, yes, but keep listing too. Every new design, every new listing is another shot, another opportunity to feed the algorithm, find that first win, and genuinely create your own luck in this huge online marketplace. So there you have it, a deep dive into what seems to make the difference. Success on platforms like Etsy, it's clearly not just about, randomly throwing products up online and hoping for the best. It's much more of a strategic dance. It involves understanding how the algorithms work, prioritizing quality over just sheer quantity, finding those overlooked gaps in the market, pricing smartly, using a bit of psychology, presenting your products effectively so people can imagine owning them, and maybe underpinning it all, that crucial element of just unwavering persistence. Sticking with it.
Absolutely. If we zoom out for a second, connect this to the bigger picture. It does raise an interesting question, doesn't it? How do these insights, understanding algorithms, tapping into human psychology like price anchoring, finding niches, how do they apply to your own goals? Maybe you're selling products, maybe you're trying to get your creative work seen, or maybe just get your ideas noticed in this incredibly crowded digital world we live in. What really stands out to you from all this?
Yeah, think about that. What's the one thing or maybe two things from these strategies that you could actually try applying today? How could you start shifting your own efforts from feeling like this constant struggle into maybe finding a path towards some unexpected success? Where will you create your own luck?